All right, and welcome back to today's episode. I'm calling it Polling, Identity, and Incentives. In a recent article entitled The Digital Future of Survey Research Faces a Challenge, Will Johnson, the CEO of the Harris Poll, shared a few insights about surveys and polling in the interview. So we're going to talk about those insights and my response from an emerging technology, crypto, blockchain, identity perspective. So see you right back in a moment. Welcome to Assembly Unfiltered. I'm your host, Satchel, and co-founder of Assembly, the Learn to Earn platform. Assembly Unfiltered is a podcast about democracy, privacy, blockchain, politics, leadership, company culture, crypto, security, and startups. It's meant for anyone who believes that all of us are living in challenging, turbulent, and even exciting times. We're living in a moment ripe for dramatic change. We envision this as a podcast for our tribe, people who share an interest in how all these threads weave together for better communities. This is meant for our learners, voters, advertisers, civic organizations, tech geeks, developers, and employees. I hope you enjoy this episode of Assembly Unfiltered. Okay, so we opened up here. There was an article in Campaigns and Elections called The Digital Future of Survey Research Faces a Challenge. And in it, Will Johnson, CEO of the Harris Poll, shared a few insights. And I distilled them as three major points. The first one was there's a concern around the ability to verify authenticity of respondents, meaning there's fraudulent respondents. Second one, he said something about there's going to be a move towards or transition to faster, cheaper delivery via dashboard, although he also included that there's also a role for more professional services for like really complicated situations. And then the third one was reaching people where they are. And so I'm going to dive into each of those points and come at it from a lens of technology. So the first one is, I believe the identity point is actually legitimate, and identity and privacy will improve polling. So KYC, which is know your customer, blockchain, crypto wallets, these are three things that all kind of dance together. They're not the same, but they're converging to create a more seamless and more verifiable online identity without sacrificing privacy. Ironically, it's a 180-degree turn from what social media networks provide, which is a loss of privacy and increased fraud. But there's a lot of folks coming at it from different angles about trying to have a better identity model, each with different goals. But I think when it comes to surveys, these things are all converging on the right trajectory, right? So you're going to get better forms of identity, and those polling organizations or their clients that are willing to be innovative will actually be able to benefit from this. And this can be a leading edge for those who are willing to jump into it rather than waiting for the technology to become completely mainstream. So there's a couple of elements that are driving this forward. So the first one is better, faster, smoother KYC. So know your customer. This is typically, and for many, continues to be that really onerous, paperwork heavy, bureaucratic, really meh process of validating your identity. Anybody who signed up for a bank in certain places, you just have to get all this paperwork, and it is really painful. But improved KYC infrastructure, that is really changing things. It is actually making it easier for someone to do in a more seamless fashion, melding things such as I've been working with some even for our mobile application, which combine face recognition with uploading documents to ensure that there's really no fraud and impersonation, and that's a big challenge that can happen. The second one is I think people are going to start having various forms of crypto wallets. And so they can be a standalone wallet, or they're software-based wallets that are embedded within applications like ours. And these can contain verifiable assets that kind of get people more comfortable with identifying who they are on a transaction basis. So it's one thing to know who your identity is from a centralized perspective, but it's another when they're sort of decentralized and you're able to place elements within a transactional key or a transactional workflow, which crypto wallets are increasingly becoming. And then the last one is blockchain, where things can live, provides the transparency while still preserving privacy. And there's a lot of really great research and advancements being done where someone's able to verify something without disclosing the information behind it. So those three things are going to join together. And really, I think we're going to start seeing identity and privacy improve polling overall. Now, that only solves one part of the problem that he addressed. And that part of the problem had to do with identity and reducing fraudsters and so forth. But the other thing is just, well, what's the goal? What's the result? And he hinted at something by talking about dashboards. And I think that that's absolutely right. Like, that major technology shift, for those who are willing to do it, is going to be a more ongoing real-time understanding of polling and messaging. And it doesn't seem to be, from what I've read, I'm no expert on surveys and polls, and I think some people are already making that shift, so it's definitely not something entirely new. But the concept of a dashboard, it's sort of like if they were to follow what Silicon Valley has been doing for several years, is real-time data intelligence, ongoing, always on, real-time, to start adjusting. So in Silicon Valley's perspective, it's often around either conversion or now sort of like product metrics. And that's just like a real-time dashboard. So imagine companies that were trying to improve their ad performance and just doing A/B testing on their landing pages and on their ads. We've now got real-time e-commerce dashboards that are showing the conversions across different channels and ads. And now for a deeper integration with products, pretty much every product that you have is going to have metrics and real-time dashboards on product usage based on things like cohorts or behavior or other demographic information. I doubt that concept of a real-time dashboard around goals and metrics and behaviors exists in politics. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling that it is, and whoever is able to take advantage of that notion will be able to really have an edge in campaigns. Now, I actually think on top of it's not just sort of issuing more and more polls. I think what's going to cause the shift is going to be integrating this polling and this data gathering from advertising. Now, regular advertising already has lots of data. Did somebody click on it? Did they view it? What was the cost? But I think polling is more detailed than just, did somebody sign up to donate? There's message testing that needs to go on, but those are disjointed from the advertising as it is. But I think what's going to happen is those that are aware of the power of ongoing message testing and polling will want to find a form factor to integrate that with the ads of getting the messaging out in the first place, because it gets them to see how effective their messaging is so they can improve it. And it kind of like kills two birds with one stone. Like, you had to get in front of an audience, so you're advertising, and you might as well get some surveying data, polling data, just to get a better sense of what your next campaign should be like. And I think those are considered separate. And I think with the collapse of or solving for the identity problem and also the need for more real-time data, I think those things will collapse. The sort of the advertising messaging with the actual polling, they're going to come and converge together. And that leads to the third part. Well, how do you do that, and where do you do that? And I think his notion of reaching people where they are is good. It's obviously where every advertiser wants to go. I think what's missing in most of the conversation is understanding the nature of these form factors, and to actually the goal should be reaching people where they are without interruption. Interruption is necessary because many of these ad products are about something else other than digesting the content that you're providing around your issue or campaign. And we're always going to have more new form factors. And in fact, it's going to be fragmented. You have now OTT or on-demand video, social media products, and even new ones become new darlings. And we're now seeing even new modalities such as audio and different forms of audio, whether it's podcast or Clubhouse, and even virtual reality. There will always be new ways to pay to get in front of people. And awareness is essential. It's kind of like how you break into the door. But those are all interrupt driven. You have to do it a number of times for people to recognize it and to even want to take an action. But it's interrupting their flow. There's limits in how much you can accomplish with that ad and with that engagement. If I'm there to watch a show, there's only so much that you're going to be able to do with that show. If I'm there and I'm trying to play a game, the fact that an ad exists, I'm only going to be able to do so much. So I think we have to have a distinction between locality, which is where people are, and intent and engagement, which is actually being the focus of their attention. Like they need to focus on the content of the ad, particularly for issue and advocacy based messaging. So I think people are missing this, and we will never escape the need for interruption, but we really need to be able to drive effectiveness on the consideration level. And I've talked about this before, and I think I'm going to continue to touch at it from different ways because it might need more bites of the apple to clarify. But I talk about in an episode called Teaching Backwards to Persuade. And the gist of that was teaching is a new form factor that seems boring and unengaging on the surface. But now with crypto and blockchain, there are rewards that can focus on legitimate behavior. And so I originally came up with the learn to earn model and the protocol based on observing and trying to get involved with play to earn, but it really saw, and I can talk about in another probably episode about why that's the case, but I think the more important part is understanding messages, engaging with content is an important persuasion model that needs to be added into the mix. So more specifically, this new persuasion model in a learn to earn model are paid micro courses, and these micro courses are very short courses which try and instruct someone on the pros and cons, whatever your position is on a given issue. And within that, we have quizzes. Quizzes are really important for hammering and emphasizing a given message, but it's also our way to ensure that somebody isn't just faking it through or having a bot go through it. Like your rewards are based on how well you perform on the quiz. But that concept of asking a question and getting responses have a lot of similarities to the design of a survey, a poll. So effectively, you're getting a course with a quiz for rewarding and baked in with a survey, and thinking about how to work with that form factor gives somebody a ongoing real-time view of messaging effectiveness. Let me give you a simple example. Suppose you have a micro course on our platform on position A for a given issue, and you've put in the argument of what it is, and then you ask the quizzes as part of the test. But if a lot of people end up disagreeing, or you get information from that quiz that shows they don't really understand it, you've gotten a lot of information, right? You know that they didn't just ingest the information, they didn't understand, it didn't persuade them. And so, putting those together in real time, imagine being able to do that. And you start to see, wow, that quiz with those message points that we're trying to hammer home, it's just not tracking. It's really not persuading. People are answering in ways that we don't want them. They're not understanding what we've communicated, and being able to pivot on the fly and sort of like get that survey information ongoing in real time. And so I think it's important, not being someone involved politically, like an expert, but from the outside, it does seem like polling sometimes has results different from the actual voting. And I think that this form factor showing like there's more decision making involved and messaging impact in an ongoing basis versus a point in time, which I think will actually help people to craft and better understand people's decision making. Just answering a survey is one thing, but like in our case, we actually